Happening right now on Sports Extra, it is always an interesting night at Jordan-Hare. Saturday night, no exception. We're going to break down Georgia's comeback victory over the Tigers. Plus, we are so close to getting Falcons football back. Finally, we're going to get you ready for Monday Night Football. And Westlake grad Cam Newton receives an incredible honor from Auburn, but he always remembers where he came from.
Frustrating, but the kids never quit. And that's never been more evident than a punch out on the goal line, which we practice all the time.
Came from Atlanta, the A, College Park, you feel me? Like it's something that will be with me for the rest of my life as a badge of honor.
The addendum to that, Cam gets it. He knows what's up. Plus, the buzz continues on the flats. Georgia Tech undefeated halfway through the year. And my good friend Josh Pate joins the show to give his take on the state of college football. Busy as always, Sports Extra, it's now. All right, let's give a round of applause for everyone in the room.
Well done.
Thank you. Welcome to Sports Section. It has been such a crazy weekend. Hometeam Brandon linked directly to my left, 680 The Fan. What's going on, my friend?
Good to see you. Good to talk sports with a lot of good things going on.
And you saw the timeout clap?
We'll get into it.
It's in the angle.
It is in the angle, of course. Joe Patrick from 92.9 The Game over there. You were doing all things Falcons lately, but you're dialed into everything else. What's going on with you?
I am, and it feels like peak college football season. After the drama at Jordan-Hare last night, I know it wasn't the prettiest thing, but it felt like just the beauty of college football in that game.
Hey, look, a win is a win. That's what
right.
all coaches say. A win is a win. And it was not very pretty, but it was Georgia that got it done, and that is what's important. That failed tush-push is really what saved the game for the Bulldogs home team. And it was right before the 2-minute that took 417 minutes.
Oh my God.
That was forever long in Jordan-Hare. But the fact that Georgia was able to weather the storm of the first half and get it done in the second, what does that say about the Bulldogs?
Well, they're resilient. We saw it in the Tennessee game when they came out and had to deal with an incredible offense that put them back on their heels. And now, basically, with the game on the line, you had nothing going at all. Offensively, you have to come up with the play of the game in the first half, and you're able to stop. And Auburn, they can talk about the timeout, not the timeout, fumble, not the fumble. The bottom line is, when you get to the 1 yard line or the 1 inch line, you have to protect the football. And Kirby Smart, in his post-game presser, talked about them practicing knocking and punching the ball out.
Yeah.
So his team was prepared and properly coached. And Jackson Arnold, he fumbles the ball. You have to hold the pig like it's the last piece of bacon you're ever going to get, and you can't fumble it away. He didn't fumble. The fumble was forced. Yeah. You have to give the Dogs and Kirby a lot of credit for coming back in that environment, which was insane at Jordan-Hare.
I have seen so much go down at Jordan-Hare. That place is haunted. It is true. Nick Saban said that on College Game Day. I can confirm. I've seen so many things where ghosts just come out of the woodwork to haunt the opposing teams that are playing at that stadium. But what's crazy about it, Joe, is when that was going down, the tush push that failed for Auburn quarterback Jackson Arnold that home team is talking about, there was this deafening silence and then uproar from the Auburn fan base. What was your assessment of that entire thing? It was ruled a fumble on the field. They took 15 minutes to look at it, and it was upheld.
I think that moment, it kind of encapsulates the difference between these two programs, between Georgia and Auburn, where I get it. Auburn feels like, they got the short end of the stick there. And there were some other instances in the game where you can argue, some are legitimate arguments that they had about the way things were going, but it felt to me like they were getting caught up in some of this drama and that we got the short end of the stick while
Look at the
Georgia
fans throwing stuff on the
exactly
field.
And on the other end and Georgia took advantage of this and the state that Auburn was in. Hugh Freeze he seemed like a mess on the sideline. I saw after the game the AD was also yelling at the officials. I think that just shows you kind of where Auburn is and the frustration that program is feeling, where Georgia feels like they can take advantage of these opportunities.
Winners find a way to win, and losers worry about losing. And that's pretty much the bottom line. You still had a half of football to play. You still were at home, and you still had a chance to do some things in the second half, and Georgia was better than you.
It's tough for Auburn because they've been really close, and they now have 3 straight losses. And you're right, when you focus on the wrong things in football, you're going to get bit every time. Kirby Smart never blames the officials, even though, a couple of breaks went the Bulldogs' way. They still find ways to win. It's why they're consistently a good football team. And Gunnar Stockton, he's consistently a good quarterback because he finds a way to win. He may not always be the best one on the field, home team, but he's finding a way to make his team be successful.
When they fumbled, when Jackson Arnold fumbled, did it start at the 50-yard line or at the 20-yard line of the Auburn Tigers? No, they had to go the length of the field in order to get some points and then see if they could change momentum in the second half. And they still didn't have things go their way. They went for it on 4th down and didn't convert, and they still had to overcome adversity. So when things don't go your way, you find out who you are. And I think now in 2 big games in the SEC on the road, we have found out who the Bulldogs are. They are resilient, and you better not leave the door cracked open, or else they're going to bite through it and make you pay for it.
They're resilient and they're tenacious. Like they're just one of those teams that's not going to go away in a game. And I think that this game was the perfect example of a team that they could have been down and out, but they're down at the 1-yard line. Yeah. They find a way to punch that ball out, like you said, home team, through the instruction and practice that they had, and then they just make their way throughout the rest of the game. It felt like it was kind of an inevitable outcome after that fumble happened.
Yeah, credit to C.J. Allen punching that ball out. And this is obviously a mammoth matchup coming up for the Georgia Bulldogs, a top 10 matchup with Maria's Ole Miss Rebels in Athens. Okay, switching gears to Georgia Tech. The Jackets, they improved to 6-0 on the year. First time they've done that since 2011. They beat Virginia Tech 35-20 on the flats on Saturday. Head coach Brent Key says while his team is hearing the outside noise, they're not really paying attention to it.
They're going to hear things, right? But it's what's internal that they need to put their full attention to. And I think they've done a good job of that, of listening. And it comes down to trust. Do they trust what I say to them? Do they trust what their coaches say to them? And I think these guys do.
All right, the Jackets now ranked 12th in the entire country. They're bowl eligible, and they're 6-0 for just the second time since the 1960s. Joe, I want to start with you. This Georgia Tech team, they are as consistent as it comes right now. They're finding ways to win more than anybody else. They are dominant in the run game. They showed that again against Virginia Tech. What's making them so successful in that part of the offense?
I think that they're just so efficient. We saw Haynes King once again over 80% passing in this game. And it's not like this is an air-it-out football team, but he gets the job done when they need to. They're also just very diverse in the way that they're able to run the football. Credit to Brent Key and that offensive scheme for just the way that they're able to attack opponents from different angles with different formations, different motions before the snap. And they just make teams guard all 11 men, basically, or 5 men, I guess, that are eligible to get the football in any given play. And I think that they have the right leader in Brent Key to kind of go through this. Obviously, they had the scare against Wake Forest, and sometimes you need those and you need to survive those if you want to have the season you want to have. Georgia Tech had it, and I think that they're just rolling at this point. To me, they seem like one of the strongest teams in that conference.
The Duke game is becoming very intriguing for next weekend. I don't want to look too far ahead, but when you're talking Georgia Tech, guys, we may get an epic game at the end of the year. But Joe mentioned Haynes King. He is a quarterback that is not only fun to watch, but he is also getting it done in all phases. 3 touchdowns, 2 of which on the ground, 1 in the air. Home team, you were there to watch Haynes. Are you surprised by his level of consistency, or is this something we've grown to expect from King?
I'm not surprised at all. He's just covered and exudes dudeness. He's a leader. He's tough. He plays hurt. He doesn't complain about being hurt. He runs the football on first down. He runs the football on third down. He runs the football at the goal line. He is the embodiment of what you want a leader to be. He leads by example, and his teammates play for him. And this was a huge game for multiple reasons. One, you're 6-0 and you're bowl eligible, and that used to be something that the Jackets used to strive for. Now the bar is raised. You're not even talking about that. You're talking about playing well, coming off of the bye, being able to be fresh and run all over another team in the ACC. And now you have bigger aspirations. And you're right, this Duke game is the biggest game of the season, which you can hear on Sports Radio 680 The Fan. You win that, you get to 7-0. Now you start talking about ACC championship aspirations and college football playoff aspirations if you can get to 7-0.
Haynes King said they're not satisfied with what they've done so far, which means there's more to go get for the Jackets. I picked them to play in the ACC championship at the beginning of the year, so don't mess this up, okay? Home team and I both, Joe, are talking about the fact that Duke is up next for Tech in North Carolina. Real quick, you think it's a big game?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think it's probably one of the premier games that you could make right now in the ACC.
No doubt. Also, Premier Kennesaw State, they've reeled off 4 straight wins. They've doubled their win total from last year. Jerry Mack's got those L's cooking. Coming up, guys, there is finally Falcons football tomorrow night. We've waited enough, haven't we? What the Falcons need to do to beat the mighty Bills. That's after the break. Welcome back. We're not ready to break through any tables or anything, but I know that Bills Mafia, they're going to be out there starting at 11 o'clock in the morning, ready to go. Falcons fans are like, yeah, whatever. We've got more fun fans, and I agree. Bills, Falcons, Monday Night Football, this one so big for a Falcons team who just got through a bye week, who a lot of us were skeptical of the placing of that. However, it turns out to perhaps be best case scenario for this team, getting some key pieces back. Now they're facing a Buffalo team coming off their first loss of the season. Josh Allen, 24-8 after a loss, this guy. They're going to be a tough opponent, but the Falcons have enough to make it interesting, Joe. What's going to be the key for the Falcons to win?
Absolutely. The Falcons have enough, and they showed it in that win that they had against the Commanders before the bye week, where the offense became much more versatile like we thought we would see coming into the season. But I also think that this game, what's obviously going to be key, is stopping Josh Allen. And I think that Terry Fontenot and what this front office did over the course of the offseason was revamp the defense in order to be able to stop quarterbacks like Josh Allen better.
Yeah.
If you look at the Michael Penix era, which is the 3 games at the end of last year, they lost that game against Washington to Jaden Daniels. And I think that they learned something from that game. I don't know if they learned it from that game, but that game was emblematic of we need to be able to get off the field against some of these modern mobile NFL quarterbacks, and this is going to be a great test for that. We thought we were going to see that test again in week 4 with Jaden Daniels. He didn't play in that game. So I think this will be a really, really good litmus test for where this Falcons defense is that is ranked, statistically much higher than any of us thought they would be at this point.
Number 1 overall in total defense. Home team, go ahead.
It's not the Ravens. It's not the Steelers. It is the Atlanta Falcons, who came into this week with the number 1 ranked defense in the National Football League. And I'm not taking anything away. Josh Allen is the reigning MVP, and I'm not taking anything away from their offense after their first loss, but they need to show me. And they haven't beaten anybody this year. They've beaten the Ravens, they've beaten the Jets, they've beaten the Saints, and they have beaten the Miami Dolphins. Horrible teams is how they've stacked these wins. And now they could be facing a Falcon team that has found the elixir for bad moments. They put up more than 30 in their last game before the bye, and bringing Zach Robinson down to the sidelines clearly has energized and changed this team. So we'll find out. I do think the Falcons are going to have to put up more than 25 points, or it might be a shootout in the bins. But I think with the defense and the combination of the offense seeing a big change before the bye week, I think the Falcons have a really good chance to come out of that building with a win tomorrow night.
Raheem Morris said it, kind of throw out the Panthers game. That's such an anomaly, and I don't think that it says anything about what this team is or what is this team becoming. The Commanders game, I think, is the perfect pieces to show you they're figuring things out at the right time, especially against a Bills team who we don't know what their identity is. We don't really know what the identity is of the Falcons, but they're getting closer to showing that they can compete with anybody.
Well, the Falcons do have to show us who they are, because we still really don't know who they are. But in fairness, they have 2 losses. One, your field goal kicker, who's no longer with the team, missed a kick that should have sent you to overtime. And one where you were totally unprepared and you got shut out by the Panthers, who, by the way, put up 30 and beat the Cowboys today. So maybe that won't turn out to be as bad on your defensive side, but you still scored no points. Other than that, you had a good win on the road against the Minnesota Vikings and a good win at home against the Washington Commanders. So we don't know who they are, but based on what we saw last and what we've seen for 4 games from the defense, we should expect a competitive game with the Falcons having a big chance to win at home.
And
Absolutely.
what they were able to do against the Commanders was they were able to get Bijan Robinson going, obviously on the ground, which is going to be important for this team. But we saw for the first time this season Michael Penix actually be able to hit some of those downfield passes, which is going to be so important. I mean, when we came into this this season, the formula for the Falcons making the playoffs was for this offense to be a top 10 offense behind Michael Penix and to be about league average on defense. Well, now you're well above league average on defense, so I think the sky is the limit for what this team can be if that offense can be what we think it could be.
Speaking of the defense, we'll get back to you in just a second. Speaking of the defense, A.J. Terrell coming back because he was injured in the game at Minnesota. He had that hamstring injury, which we know can be a big issue for a lot of guys, but he's coming back. What does this do for the secondary, Joe?
I think it's huge for this game in particular because the Bills have a really kind of big wide receiver that they like to go to in Keon Coleman, their first-round pick 2 years ago, and A.J. Terrell has the size profile to be able to match up against Keon Coleman. Now, what I'm interested to see is whether the Falcons elect to have A.J. travel with Keon Coleman around the field to basically guard him one-on-one throughout the game, or whether they want to switch off as you typically do. And it's not just down to A.J., it's down to some of their other corners and whether they're also willing to travel. But I think getting him back for this one is huge. He said he had this one starred of this game because it was a big Monday Night Football game in the city of Atlanta where he's from. You know he's going to show up for this one.
Yeah.
And who's a spy? You got to have a spy at some point for Josh Allen. You can't let James Cook just run all over you. And when you do get them in third down situations, you can't have those back-breaking, deflating moments when Josh Allen gets another first down and gets them more opportunities to score. So I think with A.J. Terrell coming back, you can help certainly your secondary stats. And you need to get this man down to the ground, Josh Allen, if you get a chance to wrap him up, because he can be a game wrecker and be the difference maker in you being losing team or a team with a winning record when this game is over.
AJ also talked about playing through the whistle. They understand that when Josh Allen is back there at quarterback, he can extend plays like nobody else, and he's just tough to take down. This guy's massive. So they've played some elusive quarterbacks to this point, granted not to the Josh Allen caliber. Several of the people in that building this week called him perhaps the best player in the NFL right now. It's a tough task, but I think the Falcons are up for it. Offensively, Darnell Mooney, he is out for tomorrow's game. That stinks, guys. He continues to navigate through these injuries that I think he's been dealing with really since last year, but now it puts them in a tricky situation at receiver, Joe. Where does this put the Falcons?
Well, obviously, when Darnell Mooney's out, you're going to have Casey Washington and Kadarius Hodge start to play more snaps. But what I really think that this does for the Falcons offense is it puts more of an onus on Kyle Pitts to be involved, to be a key player and to have more volume in the passing game. And he's shown that so far this season because Darnell Mooney has not been either available or his normal self. And Kyle Pitts has stepped up to that challenge. I think, Michael Penix really likes to go to Kyle. So I think that things are looking pretty good on that front. And then also you get the team's leading receiver so far this season involved in the passing game. It's not Drake London. It's Bijan Robinson. It's Bijan Robinson. So he's always going to be a threat in some of the underneath areas. And if you can get, if you can make the Bills have to guard every inch of that field, it's going to make this offense really difficult.
I want to see 20 pass attempts between Drake London, Kyle Pitts, and Bijan Robinson. 10 for Drake London, 5 for Bijan, 5 for Kyle Pitts, and then everybody else figures it out. This is not a game to find a guy who's open. We'll take what they get. This is a game where the superstars are supposed to show up, make massive plays, and get in the end zone. And the only way you do that is to target them repeatedly like great teams do. They need to feed these guys repeatedly tomorrow night and have your superstars show up for a superstar game.
You heard home team with the point into the camera. The Bills' run defense 28th in the National Football League, so you better believe they're going to try to run it on the Bills' defense. All right, time for George's Spotlight tonight. How about the year that George Pickens is having? This guy is unbelievable. The Cowboys traded for Pickens from the Pittsburgh Steelers this season, and the former Bulldog, he just hasn't looked back. Pickens scored his 5th touchdown in as many games today, and the Cowboys lost to the Panthers. He was Dak Prescott's top target as well, with 9 catches for 168 yards. He has solidified himself as one of the top receivers in the game, and we are cheering you on from afar, my friend. All right, coming up, college football guru Josh Patey joins the show to talk about the Dogs, the Jackets, all things college football. Hard to keep up with, but he does it well. That's after the break. Welcome back, everybody. As we know, college football is as crazy as it's ever been, and there is no one better on the planet to talk about the state of college football right now than my good friend Josh Pate from Josh Pate's College Football Show. You're on ESPN, you're on Yahoo Sports, On3, doing everything these days. First of all, very good to see you, my friend.
It's very good to see you. You just mentioned a phrase, the state of college football. Shruggy emoji. No one even knows. It's changing as we speak.
Oh, it changes all the time, doesn't it? Starting with the Georgia Bulldogs. They're coming off another win on the road in a hostile environment, Josh. They beat Tennessee in Knoxville earlier this year. They go to Jordan-Hare at night and get a win, which you and I know a lot about that stadium. It is a tough place to play. What does a win like that say about this Georgia Bulldogs team?
I think it's incredible resilience given that, what did they run, like 12 plays near the half? I remember looking down, it was 2-minute warning in the first half. Georgia weathers that storm. Man, the second half, that's what good staffs do. Everyone says halftime adjustments. They're really adjusting the whole game. Some of the critical officiating mistakes, if you want to call them that, but those occurrences really changed the flow. They're just mentally tough enough to kind of harness that to their advantage.
Yeah, the SEC is such an intriguing league right now because there's so much parity all over the place. There is not parity when it comes to a team that you love. I know that you do. The Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets. You were really high on these guys in the preseason. They're 6-0 for the first time since 2011. Josh, why were you so confident in them before the season? And what have they done to reaffirm that belief in them to this point?
Well, I watched them play. I know not everyone does that, and that's okay. Some of them even vote in polls and don't watch Georgia Tech play. That's not okay. I watched them at the end of last year, Maria. I'm convinced if you and I changed one thing about the past, and we just changed the multiple overtime game, Georgia Tech, and just have it go Georgia Tech's way, I'm convinced they would have been on the front of a lot of preview magazines this year. What they've done so far is they've won every game that they've played. Now, I mean, they're in the meat of their conference schedule. They got a game against Duke coming up, which I also think will get overlooked nationally. That's one of the low-key best games of the week. Whenever Georgia Tech is where they're going to be in December, I think that Duke game's probably what we're looking back on saying, well, that was the hinge point that led to this.
There are a ton of head coaching vacancies, more to come, I'm sure. What's going on, and where do you see this going?
It's really weird what's happening right now. As you and I are speaking, James Franklin has lost his job at Penn State. There are a number of other coaches just in the SEC alone whose names are very much on what you would call the hot seat. And it doesn't matter if you pay a guy $10 million or $10 billion a year. They are who they are. Now more than ever, you better really be sure about pulling the trigger on this stuff, because the last thing you want to be is Florida.
Josh, I appreciate your time as always. I am so immensely proud of you. Thank you so much.
I appreciate it. You're the best.
All right, we'll be right back. Before we go, we want to give a very huge congratulations to Cam Newton for having his jersey retired by Auburn this past weekend. The Westlake grad is just the fourth player all time to receive the honor. Heisman Trophy winner, BCS national champion, and now no one will ever wear the Auburn jersey with the number 2 on it ever again. Guys, thanks for watching each and every Sunday. Monday Night Football is tomorrow, Falcons and Bills. We'll see you next week.